up, guys? Here we go. Today we are actually talking about podcasting, and I want to make sure this is recording properly. Here we go. This is Loom. I will touch on Loom at a later date. But today, podcasting, pretty exciting. That's the new rage for sure. And we believe as an entrepreneur, there's no better way for you to start documenting your journey than pursuing or documenting that journey through a podcast, I guess. Really just pursuing your journey and making it public. That's what I was going to say. So the way you create a podcast, you get your audio and you need to upload it somewhere. And that's what I want to get into today. We personally believe that Podbean is the place to go. If you're an entrepreneur and you're running a lean podcast, so you're not looking to spend a bunch of money, Podbean is the place. So you can see that I'm at podbean.com. And if we go into this, what you need or what Podbean is, it's essentially hosting your podcast. So just like when you make a website, you have something like GoDaddy or HostGator or something like that. You have one of those hosting sites host your actual URL. It's the storage. It's where it kind of sits there and sits in a cloud and blah, 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 blah. But essentially, you need that same thing for a podcast. Therefore, we use Podbean for multiple podcasts, and I encourage all of you guys to use it too. So, podbean.com, pull it up on your computer, and really what we're going to walk through here is how you would post a podcast. So essentially, first let's look at the pricing. Now, if you don't really know if you want to do podcasting for the long haul, here's what you can do. You can go with the basic trial, essentially. It's free. You get 5 hours of audio that you can upload. And it's really a good deal just to kind of see what it's like, see if you like it or not. The option that I usually do is just unlimited audio. It's $9 a month, so I can post as much as I possibly want to. And then I don't have to worry about any unmetered bandwidth metered bandwidth, sorry. So that's kind of what I do. I usually go with the unlimited audio and I get started. You guys are all smart enough to figure out how to sign up. So once you sign up, let's just hop right into it here. We're going to sign up and you are probably going to be brought not to this page necessarily. You're probably going to be brought to a more general page where it's just viewing your site. So, here's kind of what a Podbean site looks like. And you can see how the podcasts are kind of set up, and it's nice and simple, easy to use. But I kind of want to get into the back end quick. And this here, guys, this is the back end dashboard. Now, as you can see, I don't really have a lot of downloads here on this because this is relatively new. We haven't really focused on it much at all, but really it's just me documenting my journey right here on Podbean. So a couple things that are important. When you go to Podbean, what you're going to want to do is publish your first podcast. So whether you come up here and you click My Podcast, which is going to bring you to this page, when you do that, you're going to go to Publish. And it's pretty simple. Once you hit Publish, you're going to add a new episode. Now, I will put one together here really quick. I already have some audio in my download section. And if you guys don't know how to create audio files or anything like that, I will try to touch on how we personally do it. And then you can just kind of learn from there. So within Podbean, I'm choosing a file. This is an audio file that I was lucky enough to sit down with Lee Wallace from Peace Coffee and do. And I'm going to upload this file. Now, it's important, when it's getting uploaded, you're going to want to put in a title. And, mine is Master the Start. This is a separate podcast I've done. And this is episode number 36 with Lee Wallace. and you always want to make a decent explanation. So, I mean, I'm sorry that this video is so casual, but essentially I'm just going to say, had an awesome sit down. Oh, way to spell. Awesome sit down conversation with Lee Wallace of Peace Coffee. So essentially, pretty simple here. And I guess while we're waiting for it to download or upload, I guess that would be the technical term. Something you can do kind of on the sidebar, which is kind of cool. You can click the Facebook icon, the Twitter icon, WordPress, YouTube, and I believe that's Tumblr. And you can actually connect your podcast to those social feeds. So every single time you post a podcast, you're going to be able, it's going to automatically upload it to those social feeds, letting people know that a new podcast has been posted. I wanted to, I guess while we're waiting for this, I'm going to pull up Podbean over here. And I think it's important to take a look at something. And I think a lot of people don't know a whole lot about this. But if I pull up a podcast, you know, when you guys are podcasting, you're going to want to share it on your website. So the awesome thing about Podbean is you're able to come in here and push share. And with that, you can either share a episode link with people, or you can do embeds. So right here, you can see that you can either embed your podcast into your website looking like this, or you can embed your podcast looking like this. So couple of quick things, you know, a lot of you guys, if you're starting out, you're probably going to have a WordPress site or Wix site, and you're going to want these embeds to be mobile friendly. What I have found is this embed is the best for a desktop version, but it doesn't seem to properly scrunch down and fit a mobile version phone. So you're going to want to have this version in for your desktop, and then you're going to want to have this version for your mobile. And the frustrating thing about this is, you know, this is all of your code right here. This is very big, this image here. You don't necessarily want an image that big on a phone. What you can do is look through this code. You can see it here. And you can actually go to the code and find this section that says height. And this is measured in pixels. So what you can do is you can actually change the size of your code if you want, and then highlight it, copy it, and then embed it into your site. So awesome stuff. You can embed all of your site. You can embed all your podcasts into your site, which is sweet. And that's a really awesome feature of Podbean. So let's get back, see if it's uploading. My goodness, I'm actually at home today, so things are uploading mighty slow. So I guess I'll just talk to you guys about a couple of other things. You know, I wasn't going to do this in this episode, but I'm going to really quick. Now, for all of you guys that have not created a podcast, I recommend a product called the Blue Yeti. This is the Yeti mic here. You can see me in the corner talking about it. I will pull it up. Blue Yeti mic. And this is a really easy way to start producing a podcast. So you guys can find it on Amazon, and this mic is only going to cost you roughly $130, which is an absolute steal. So if you're looking into starting a podcast, get the Blue Yeti mic. It is well worth it. And in a separate episode or a separate little tip, tool, whatever we want to call these things, I will actually give you a more in-depth look into the Blue Yeti mic and you can take it from there. But I'm going to assume that the podcast is ready, and we assume properly. So once the podcast has been uploaded, you're going to go down here and push publish if you want it to be published right now in this moment. Or you can actually publish on a different date. So you can schedule what time and date you want it to be published, or you can just save it as a draft. I'm going to publish it now because, why not? And at this point, once you publish an episode, you can share it once again on any of these feeds that you want to connect it to. Anyways, if we go back here, I just published this episode. You can see that it just popped up on my feed. I have a profile image connected to it. People can share it, they can download it, they can like it. So pretty awesome how quick and slick that is. But what is also important, when you're running a podcast, you want it to be on other feeds. So you want your podcast to show up on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart. Now, how you do that is we're going to go to settings. And within the settings, just follow along, and trust me, I'll give an explanation in a second. Once you hit the settings, you're going to go to the feed. I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that. Essentially, you're going to the feed under settings, and here you're going to find this RSS feed. So this is the feed that is tied to your podcast. With this RSS feed, you're going to go to iTunes.com, you're going to go to iHeart, you're going to go to Spotify, and you're going to look at how to apply to have your podcast put on those platforms. It's pretty simple. They're going to ask you a few questions, and then they're going to ask you to upload this RSS feed. And this is where you're going to find it under settings and feed. Once you upload those RSS feeds in iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, all those good places, they will take a couple days to approve it, and then you'll be good to go. And then your podcast will be hosted on Podbean, but it will also be played on Spotify, iHeart, and all of those good places. So one more thing I guess we could touch on is one nice thing about Podbean. They have all these statistics. I don't really look at these because this is just something that I upload when I talk. But essentially you'll see here, it shows how many downloads you get, where they occurred. You get to see bounce rates, user retention, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of data that you can actually find in Podbean. It's pretty good at tracking stuff, which is super nice. The last thing is you'll see on this sidebar, and sorry I'm going out of order, you have the ability to change your layouts and your sidebar widgets. So with this theme, you can pick a theme and you can edit what color, the header images, the size, the kind of font, all that good stuff. And then the sidebar widgets, every thing has a sidebar. And if we pull this up again, you will see that on my specific podcast, you can see who's following me, and that's pretty much all I show because I guess I don't really see anything else being necessary. I don't think people need to see the archives or the pages or the tags, but I'm sure I might add them in the future. So you can add any sidebar widgets you want. And essentially at that point, you should have a completed podcast page. And that is really how you upload your first podcast. So it's pretty darn simple. It's pretty darn fun to see what kind of people interact with your podcast. And I think we will make sure, and if you haven't already, sorry, I was going to close this video up quick, but if you haven't already, look for the video on what we use to actually record our podcasts and make sure you consider buying it. So we get nothing out of the deal, by the way. It's just the cheapest thing we've been able to find. And as you know, we're starting our company just like you are. So we're trying to give you the cheapest options that we also use. All right. Thanks, guys. Hope you learned something from this Podbean tutorial.